Okay, we are live. Everybody tuning in. This is Sloppy Sunday. Looks like we already have some people in the chat, and then with us is the one and only the dreadful one.
In the flesh. What kind
Yeah,
of? Remotely in the flesh.
Rick from the Dreadful Minutes is with us tonight, and he was just commenting before about when we were backstage. Rick was saying that, do you want to wait and then you go on and warm everybody up and then, introduce me and bring me on? And I'm like, this is sloppy Sundays, dude. It's
Yeah.
You're lucky I'm even wearing proper clothes right now. I could just show up in a bathrobe, really. And I did take a shower today, so it's maybe that sort of contradicts what sloppy Sunday means, but I did shower today.
You know what's funny, man? Like, I thought about wearing like what metal shirt I'm gonna wear tonight, right? And I'm like, we're gonna be showing a lot of metal shit. Like, so I just got my Jack. Jack just wants his truck back, right? So
Yeah.
my Jack Dinos. I'm like, that's good enough, man. It's just like something to kind of kick things off and not always have to be the regular run of the mill, kind of thing. I got plenty of metal shirts I could wear anytime, any day. So
Yeah.
I'm sure you have probably hundreds of them.
I have too many metal shirts, and like during COVID, I went on this there are two things here. During COVID, I went crazy buying band shirts for some reason. It's band shirts, and I know I'm not the only one who did this, but I was like, oh, cool shirt, and did a ton of mail order during COVID. But then also I bought all the shirts, but then I've gained more weight since then. So a lot of the shirts I bought don't even fit me. And so I have all of these shirts sort of just sitting in bins. I have like a Home Depot, the bins that are black with the yellow top, the yellow lid, I have sort of like a barrier, stacks of those, and a couple of them are just packed full of band shirts that I can't even fit into. I need to figure out something to do with all of them, because there's a pretty good chance I'm never going to be thin enough to comfortably fit into those shirts.
I find that problem to be particular for us middle agers, just because like we're not the same size we were in high school. For the most part, if you find yourself the same size you were in high school, congratulations. But that shit is not typical. And then when the time comes, this is why I don't know how old your oldest band shirt is, but like the oldest band shirt you have, if you could still find yourself fitting in that thing, like where it's not you're not stretching it out in such a way, you know what I mean? Unless you're the rare one that lost a ton of weight since then. But I find myself in that situation because I'm teetering the line of M and L, right? I'm a small guy, for those who know. Like, so if I'm complaining about my weight, it's because I'm a small guy. So for an L for me, it's considered large, right? Which is large. I'm a medium. So if I'm not too careful and have too many hot dogs in the weekend,
right,
I'm an L.
Yeah.
So I'm literally taking an L. So I could go to a medium. I want to stick to my medium, but I don't think I'm holding on to a life raft on my medium right now.
You know what? I think I can't even remember a time, even when I was a child, when I could have fit into a medium. I come from a family of fat, lazy people, and who like their fatty foods and their cholesterol and everything. I right now I'm teetering between XL and XXL, which is a little it's a little embarrassing. I am working on losing some weight, but I think to get down to like a large, it's a bit of a stretch, like that's something that I would, in high school.
But you're not smaller than average. Like I'm shorter than your average person, right? Like I'm a short guy. I'm not Dio short. Like it's one of those things where I'm glad people like Dio or were around, you know what I mean? Just because like they're like larger in their life in their own little way. But I'm like, every time I watch a video, I'm like, there's a reason why they shoot these videos with him by himself
Yeah.
or really close up. You know what I mean? So like, so I don't have to feel so small myself, you know, when I'm watching this stuff. So an L to me is considered large, but to somebody who's normal average size, like they'd be like, I would love to fucking fit in an L because, you know, like in your world, that'd be a really nice size to fit into. For me, as a short person, that's not ideal, right? Because that would indicate I had too many hot dogs in the weekend.
If Oh yeah, like if you were wearing, I could imagine you like in an XXL, it would probably fit like Mrs. Roper from Three's Company, who always wore the muumuus, you know, and she'd come barging in, she'd be like, Jack, you get over here, you know, and you know, something like that where it's just hanging out, and where the sleeves are hanging down. Well, now here's one thing though that's interesting. We're children of the 90s. Okay, so we came up in the 90s, and in the 90s everybody wore their clothes really baggy. So
Yep.
I do have band shirts from that time. As a matter of fact, one that I have is the Ministry Psalm 69 t-shirt that I've had since high school. And I wore it on the stream that I did with Logan and um, Bill, and the Chicago stream that we did, and it
Oh,
fits
yeah,
me fine because it was, you know, in you know, the 90s, that's when you wore everything baggy and you wore big baggy jeans and all of that. And I've noticed that's starting to come back now, and it looks a little ridiculous,
so your
you know?
your baggie is now just fitting.
Yeah.
At this point. I mean, the fact you managed to hold on to that shirt, you know, for so long, if I could go back in time and go back and buy a lot of those shirts, I'd be like, there's this thing coming in the future called eBay, and people will be paying stupid money for this shit, even for these
Oh yeah.
used and worn ones, man. It's crazy.
Yeah. And I have a few others, a couple. I have a Pink Floyd shirt. I saw Pink Floyd when they played, when they toured for the Division Bell in,
Mm,
I think, 1994,
94.
and
Yeah.
I still have the shirt for that. It might fit me. I don't know. It's one of those shirts too where it shrunk in a weird way where it might fit me, but then also the bottom of my stomach might hang out of it too. You know, it's,
Oh, okay.
yeah, I'm not like really a Pink Floyd fan or anything, so I wouldn't really flaunt it, but I do have that. I have
I
a
get
couple other
worn
ones.
some band shirts are like, I'm not really into the band, but the artwork is really cool. You
Yeah.
know, so like I love the artwork, which we're talking about tonight. So I want to rock it. But I'm not the hugest fan of the band. So where do I fall in the poserisms, you know, when it comes to that
You
era?
know,
Gray
that's
area.
tough. I have conflicted feelings about that too because I've seen cool band shirts, but if I don't like the band, I'm like, I can't rep this band. You know, I don't want this falling back on me. I don't want, you know, it's, you know, there are people who say that like, well, hey, fuck what other people think. Blah blah blah. I'm like, no, you don't understand. I have a reputation to uphold. And I cannot tarnish that reputation with just like a trendy poser band shirt on, you know. It's
Yeah. Unless you're trying to be ironic about it, you're like, I just really like yellow bananas, you know, but it says velvet underground, you know, the thing you're like, you know, and you could be oblivious, you know. Sometimes I'll give these kids a pass, you know, just because they just don't know, you know, and they'll see these things at Hot Topic or whatever, you know, and they'll buy it but they do no research, you know, on a lot of this shit. This is how we end up with the phenomena of Nirvana clothing brand, right? Like this is how this happens.
well, I do have a Janet Jackson Rhythm Nation t-shirt that I found at the Goodwill
Oh,
once, and I think that fits me. So I don't know. I could probably go around.
I legitimately like that album, so I would rock it. I would rock it.
Ooh, yeah.
Yeah, man, those
What
were the
have
good
you
old days.
done for me lately? I think isn't that song on that album? I don't know. I'm not really a go-to for R&B.
those are the kind of albums where like the beat was a little too hard. You know, when you try to play these kids today, it was just like you know, and that was the 80s for you. You know, everything was very hard hitting and it was literal sense. You know, it was just like because it was about the beat, right? And it was like the extra snare. It just had to be that extra loud, extra punchy.
Oh yeah.
So as you were bopping up and down, that was the sound at the time.
Oh, so much music was so overproduced back then. Like just so dramatic and just so overproduced and
Yeah.
just so big. Even stuff like Air Supply. I have this weird thing where, like, for some odd reason, I've always really liked Air Supply. Like, I mean, you guys know me well enough to know that I like some really questionable music out there. You know, it's
Hey, so
and
do I, man.
what's that?
That's a so do I.
Yeah, yeah, and you know what? Air Supply are one of those bands where, you know, I'll put the record on a couple times a year, and then I'll sit here and I'll be like, "I'm lost in love and I don't know much." You know, like I'm really feeling it and everything, but Air Supply are example of one of those bands from that era where it's so overproduced and, um, who was the guy who wrote the Meatloaf album?
Oh, Jim Steinman.
Jim Steinman. Yeah, he was responsible for a lot of that, the theatrics and the over production of a lot of music from that
It
time.
tends to really like when this stuff is overproduced, it will really age your album fast. You know what I mean? It's like putting turbo in your car. It's gonna just wear out your engine that much faster.
Oh yeah. Oh
Weird
yeah.
analogy, but you know, it's the way I see it. But it has its charm, right? It's like when you want the Miami Vice isms, you know, in your stuff, you know, bring in John Hammer, it just add the extra fucking crazy over the top synth on your stuff.
Yeah, yeah, kind of like you know that era too, going back to the you know just the Jim Steinman you know overproduced music not aging well. When a band is playing and there are like 18 members of the band on stage playing, that's when you're just over the top ridiculous.
Yeah.
Just like
Unless your name is cool in the
band
band.
that's not going to age well.
Oh shit, man, dude! I could talk about fucking just relishing shit from back in the day, man. It's
Oh
really,
yeah.
we got to do a stream on that topic. Just fucking
We are, and so tonight, what we're going to do, we already have some people in the chat who tuned in to join us. We have James G. Warrior, and good to see you, man. We have Jim Boardman.
Are you on the dread? I think he's on the dreadful side. So we're kind of multi casting.
He is, yeah. Yeah, and then all right, and then B-sides is one of my followers, not your follower, Rick.
Oh,
So B's good to see you, B. Wilson is in the chat. Wilson, always good to see you. Parachute pants and Jenko jeans. Yeah. Oh boy. Logan, got Logan here. And
what's up, dude?
all right. And here we go. Ben is in the chat. Good to see you,
Hey, what's
man.
up, man?
So okay, so one thing first, I want before we get started on tonight's topic. I went to the grocery store today, and I bought a loaf of bread, and I bought Dave's Killer Bread.
Yes.
Okay, and has anyone ever wondered, like Dave's playing his guitar right there? I wonder what he's playing because you know what the Killer logo it that kind of looks like the Iron Maiden like that's sort of Iron Maiden-esque in a way of from like the Killers album, you know, the way that it's sort of just carved in there over Dave's logo. But when you look at him, he looks like kind of like he should be playing in like Steely Dan or something like that, like really fit. But I wonder, it's like what is he? What if he's playing like Rain in Blood or something, or you know, or you know, maybe like Butchered at Birth. You never really know.
I'm glad you brought this up, as a matter of fact, because what's the water brand, Murder Your Thirst? You know, and it's
Yeah,
you're starting to see these things crop up. It's like you can build an entire brand off of these kind of most people will call it a gimmick, right? Like we're past the era of just Wonder Bread, right? Like you got to come up with something a little edgy sounding or whatever, but you still got to apply the rules of regular logistics. Like to run a bread chain like this, you still got to go, but you still got a killer logo. You still got a guy with fucking rocking the axe and all that stuff, and you could build a whole business around that. It's like come up with the logo, come up with the name. Now we need like a product around it. Bread,
Yeah.
water. We got these commodities.
Well, like that's the thing too. Okay, so Marty is right here. Liquid
Liquid
death
death.
rules. It's still just water, though. Like I don't know how could water? It's like okay, water is water. I mean, if it's water that has garbage floating in it or something, then that's I don't like that type of water. But
You ever
water
try
is
to buy
water.
liquid? Like you ever try to buy liquid death at a show? Like you go to those closed venues where like you pretty much have to pay their prices, and it's like it's already expensive enough at your local grocer, right? It gets because it's a gimmick water. It's water, and no one wakes up and go, I really need some liquid death. I can go for Aquafina or whatever, but like I liquid death, it's what I must have in my system right now. And then when you're in an environment like a show or a concert or whatever, you're paying 3 times the price for the same crap, like you would with beer, right? But at the same time, you have to remind yourself, it's just water. Like this is just water.
You know what? I'm unhinged. I drink tap water. I just go right up to the tap and just fill my cup up and
Okay.
chug it
See,
straight out of the tap.
you're a Gen Xer. You're the drinking from the hose generation, man. Like
Oh yeah, I drink from a lot of hoses. Oh yeah.
I see the remnants of that.
Oh yeah. 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 Drink out a lot of hoses, drink water out of bathroom sinks, kitchen sinks. I'm not scared. There's no water fountain that scares me. I'll drink out of all of them. I don't do the bottled water thing. Anyways, so tonight we are going to talk about album packaging. And it doesn't sound like the most exciting topic to talk about. Usually with music streams, we either want to talk about the music or we want to talk about the artwork. We're going to talk about the packaging. And what interests Rick and myself about packaging is that we have similar backgrounds in our work experience of dealing with print production, um, Photoshop, page layouts,
Yep.
a lot of that. And having worked in that side of the industry, I'm no longer in that side of the industry, but I did work in a lot of print processes when I was younger. And you have like an understanding of what's really going on when it comes to the pricing, the quality of the materials, the assembly of the packaging, things like that. And one thing that I've really started to notice a lot just over the years, especially with the vinyl resurgence, is record labels and record labels that invest and put money into good quality packaging and good quality reproduction of the artwork and everything, and then other record labels that cut corners. And so there's really kind of just a lot of just garbage out there, just of cheap quality packaging. And so tonight what we're going to do is we're going to go through a couple albums a piece of something that's really awesome packaging, something that is mediocre packaging, and something that's really crappy packaging. Different aspects of it, the materials, maybe the quality of the printing, all of that. So and we're also to Rick, because Rick is a big graphic designer. Out of YouTube, definitely, like I can tell a Rick thumbnail immediately when I see a Rick thumbnail.
Have I arrived? Am I there now? Where it's like this is a signature look.
Oh, it's you created your own brand, definitely. But that's because you're a very talented graphic artist, and you have your own style, and um, you know, people who've worked in design and stuff, you can kind of pick apart things. When you look at a composite of an image, you can pick apart,
Yeah.
okay, this was done to this to create this effect, and here's this, and all that type of shit. And so, well, like, tell us a little bit, Rick, about like what you've done on in like
Yeah.
design and stuff.
Well, like you mentioned, like, I've been involved a lot in the print world. We're heading into a generation now where a lot of these kids who are like these new graduates, if you happen to go to art school, that's the thing I want to make clear. You don't have to go to art school, right? Like to get into the art world. A lot of the job market is who you know. For the first and foremost, you still need some kind of body of work. They want to know what you can do, but at the same time, you need an eye for this. And a lot of these new graduates are going to be solely digital only. Although tonight we're talking about the print world, and we're talking about how stuff gets reproduced. So you still need a set of skills to know how the stuff is being handled with the presses.
Mhm.
Everything can look pretty on screen, but at the same time, you have to know, have some kind of idea how the stuff's going to look in the physical formats. At the same time, as a whole, too. Sometimes not just like a cover; it's the cohesive everything, right? Which is the media. So I pulled some CDs and LPs at the same time, just to kind of give it a fair shake of just kind of in totality of kind of what we're dealing with, because we consume multiple formats. And so besides that, having some experience other than just music media, there's magazines, developing the pieces of it, like logos, little emblems and whatever. I have one particular LP I pulled where like it's two different artists trying to do that same style, but
Mhm.
it might knock you out of the consistency of it. Again, it'll make sense once I pull it. But just to kind of give you an idea of, you can click a button and have a tool, and you can know the tool. It's like like the programmer who doesn't know any UX, and it's just throwing shit together. In their mind, it always makes sense, but you got to have the user testing. And I think that in the print media world, the user testing, it's reflected in sales. You know what I
Yep.
mean? Because we're very visual creatures. Even we know we don't want to admit it, and we're like, well, the music and the content. Look at that Deicide album, right? And you hear one of two things, and because we did the album of the year, and it's kind of like, do this person's going to be either they're going to bitch about the cover, or they're going to just gloss right past it and just go right to the music, because the cover doesn't matter to them. And we're talking obviously the AI phenomena that's really huge right now.
Yep.
And I feel like that also factors in to how it might contribute to a bit of that laziness, of trying to come up with some visuals that may not be totally your entire effort. The days of paying a photographer $10,000 a shoot to helicopter somebody in for one scene, it's coming to kind of a close. You know what I mean? So and I think this is where we're at now. So I think I'm part of a breed that's not as appreciated over time. And my mom still doesn't know what I do, by the way. So
Yeah.
I'm sure
Yeah.
you're in the same boat.
Yeah. Yeah. When I was younger, in one of my print roles that I had, well, actually digital imaging, is I was a film scanner, and I also did art reproduction. Like the Smithsonian was one of the clients at the time too, where we would get these big old paintings, the type of stuff where you wear gloves to handle it, and we had this big flatbed scanner, a big Heidelberg scanner, and you take the paintings and then you scan it in panels, and then you merge all of those in Photoshop and stuff. And I from working with a lot of film and reflectives, which is really kind of like what a lot of like reproducing photography reproducing photographic prints and artwork and stuff like that. I started to really get a feeling for um reproducing the imagery but also preserving the integrity of it, because if you have an illustration that was painted on a canvas, but then, there's a texture to it. There's a look to how the ink spreads, and the canvas creates a look that you wouldn't get on if you painted the same image on paper. And film is the same way too. There gets to be a point where when you work with film long enough, you can pick out certain types of film. Kodachrome is there was a song, I think Paul Simon wrote a song about Kodachrome, which was a really popular type of film and a certain type of saturation that certain types of film created, or a certain color cast and things like that. I was never really a designer. I was a production artist, but I was always in like working with film and artwork, and QA was a big part of it too. I mean, like, give me a magazine. I can't read a magazine without finding like 37 things wrong with it, of just flipping the pages and finding, oh, this ad is cut off here, or this rule doesn't, it doesn't bleed right, or anything like that, and
It's worse now because even the proofreading, it's going way down south, man. Like they don't care about that anymore. So you're trying to read a magazine nowadays, there's a million errors. And I'm not a grammar punctuation guy, and I'm noticing this. Quality's going downhill all over the place.
Oh yeah, it's after 2008, when the economy tanked and all of that. Like, companies do not put the money into quality and QA like they used to. It's
a shame.
Yeah, at all. They definitely, that's not. I mean, I'm in the web space nowadays. I don't deal with print at all, but one thing I will say though is that I always thought that being in a position where I was working with album artwork would always be really awesome. And there was a time when I was younger where I was looking for jobs and I remember applying for a job that was in LA, at like a plant of some sort where they did LP packaging. I always thought it would be really cool to work with that, because I one thing that I like about a lot of LP packaging is when they get resourceful with using things like spot colors and foil stamping and different materials on the jacket, not just your typical coated average run-of-the-mill LP jacket. I like when I see some different materials being used, and I always thought it would be cool to be in a space of working with stuff like that. But I've
you also have a production kind of sense, right? Because you said you're more in that world than the creative side of it. So you still have to work in places to have a creative quote department, you know what I mean, alongside that. And you still have to know terms like bit depth and whatnot, I remember back in the day, man, like you had things like drum scanners, which is today's smartphones have more megapixels than those drum scanners did back in the day. We're at this point now where like you could just patch that shit up with your phone and you have this nice big print. But like you said, you have museum experience, the Smithsonian, but their president, their prominent idea of taking in artwork is for archival purposes. They're trying to preserve, there, so they have to be accurate, so I can see the sensitivity behind that versus doing something for like an album art where everything is just all about the aesthetics, and just pushing the sale so it looks pretty.
Right. Yeah. And so that's sort of just a summary of what our background is. And so we're going to show off some LPs. And I think what we'll do is I'm going to start by showing something that was really elaborate, executed really well. A lot of time was put into this. And this is something that I've held on to. I've had this since it came out. And let me let me bring my let me see if old man Chris can figure out how to work this damn thing. Here we go. All right. So this is the original Melvin's Senile Animal album. This is the original hardbound. I think it's 4 LPs. It's a 4 LP set when it was originally released. I forgot when this came out. I think it was maybe in sometime in like the mid 2000s, like 06 or something like that.
It was one of those years I wasn't looking at Melvin's albums. I pretty much dropped out just from, my taste in music was in a lot of other places at the time. But I didn't know it came in 4 LPs. I have a CD of it. I don't have the LP, but I didn't realize it was packaged like that.
It's 4 single-sided LPs. So I'm going to get into it here. And this packaging is just absolutely phenomenal. The quality and that was put into it. The one thing that I didn't like is that the hype sticker was used to seal the jacket. When I first opened it, I cut around the hype sticker, so I didn't need to open it or cut through the hype sticker. But this thing, let me pull it out here. Hold on a second while I whip this out.
It could have been worse, man. It could have been one of those wax stamps. I've gotten some packages like that. Obviously, it's usually on paper.
Yeah, I've gotten a couple of those. So the packaging is so elaborate. There are instructions on how to open it, and so what we have here is all of the fish, and then the lines, that's all like a metallic spot color. So the way that I look at this, and I'm not an expert at trying to like dissect, like the CMYK channels of all this, but I think that this is probably like a 6 color packaging, where that means, you have your CMYK separations, which would be, this would be a good example of that. But then the 5th color would be the gray Pantone that was used for the fish. And then also this bluish effect right here. It looks like, it's like a reflex blue type of Pantone, but with a transparency effect over it for that sort of wavy look. So when you get into having multiple separations in the printing process, it gets complicated.
Yeah. It's like you said, like CMYK. It's that's just standard fare for color artwork, right? Anything above that incurs extra cost. So like you said, like the silver foil with the not foil, but the silver ink spot color in the Pantone world. Like, so if you do that and add another one, then you have what's called 6 colors. For a standard, you're adding 2 there. They went through a lot of trouble, man, to get that result.
Oh yeah. And it's really good illustration. Now when you open it up, this is just incredible. You have the artwork here inside. Here's the band. And this album is Melvin's, when they were also the 2 big business dudes were playing in the band as well. This is all really heavy stock. I mean, the amount of work that went into creating this packaging, because the thing too is that when something like this is printed, the outer cover, it's a heavier material than the interior pages are, the interior sleeves. So these are all printed either on the same press or, there's a separate print run for each of these, uh,
Yeah.
you know, uh, not sheets, but, each insert here is all there's a separate print run for each of those. Um, and then everything is pretty much done by hand where, because this type of stuff too, there's not machines that are binding this type of material. I mean, this
You know,
stuff.
the artist who does something like this, they have to really know their shit in the print world. And I feel like a crucial factor holding that together is the spine design, you know,
Mhm.
to get the whole thing. Because that is that's what's holding that whole thing. It's the way you seamlessly just move the pages around,
Yeah.
like that's no accident, man. There is a very purposeful, what do you call construction behind that.
Yeah. Oh yeah, yeah, definitely. And well, that's the thing too, is that because now the inside, you also have the inner jackets here. So this is four LPs. So you also have each of these. I mean, if you were to break down the cost to produce this, gosh, I can't even imagine. So it's four LPs, but there's an etching. They're single sided, but there's also an etching on it. And now the etchings, I'm not really a fan of LP etchings like this, but that's the part of the stamper. It's really, because there's the stamper that has your grooves that they stamp and all that. All this is just an EPS file that was plated, and then they just used that as the stamper. So that's not really complicated in
The thing
reproducing.
too is for those who are like getting into vinyl, they're gonna run into terms like dead wax, right?
Yeah,
And I think that this is one of those ways they deal with that is, well, we got to have something, it's like we got enough for a side A, B, C. It's like, what do we do with D? It's like, well, we got this EPS file. We could just snap that thing on there and call it a day. But I feel like if you're going to go through that trouble, you know what I mean? At least make it worth your while, because I've seen some really lame etchings where it's just like just a simple circle or logo or something, and I'm
yeah.
like, what?
Oh yeah, yeah. There are plenty of those out there too. And you know what? From looking at this now, those dots on all of this are like sort of like it looks like it's a gold type of spot color. So this could be like a 7 color print job,
Yeah,
really.
that's insane. Kind of
Yeah.
what Marty was saying, just the price per unit on that thing. I don't know what you paid for that, but anybody looking for copies of this thing, if they're even still available, prepare to shell out a pretty penny.
Oh no, this I can't remember what I mean, this I bought this when the album first came out back mid 2000s. So I've had this sitting around for a while. What I paid for it, yeah, the price per unit was probably pretty
Well,
steep.
you know what makes this even crazier, Chris, is you bought that when vinyl was not even back in the resurgence. Like they were footing that kind of money for something like this when people weren't really buying vinyl like they're doing now,
Right.
which is probably back in a decline if you've seen the prices lately. But that's another conversation.
Right.
Uh,
Yeah.
but could you imagine going through all that work with this construction and everything else and having shitty graphic design? But in this case, it's got really good graphic design, so it does justify. You know, it's a good package physically, aesthetically. It's a nice what do you call it? Just a golden composite of everything.
Yeah, yeah. 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 This is by far. I mean, and the thing too is it's like when they released this, there was another variant of this where the packaging was the same, but just the my cat just woke up from a nap. So anytime I'm on camera, he needs to
You
jump
know,
in and be part of the discussion. Hush. Um, but there was another variant too where I forget. I think the records were maybe like a half and half or something like that. Um, but at that time too, the way colored vinyl has become sort of the norm now. At
Yep.
that time, things were still a lot of black vinyl, but then the colored variant was like the limited run of, like say if there was like 1,000 records being pressed, maybe like 600 would be on black, and then the remaining 400 might be a mix of some different color variants. But nowadays,
Hey,
a lot of it,
like 1,000 is considered a high run nowadays.
yeah, yeah. So it's yeah. This is I still I would say that the cost for this packaging, Hydra Head is the label that put this out. The per unit cost probably I would say maybe is around between the $10 to $15 range. But because you need to take into account, the handwork to assemble all of it, to glue the inside together, to um I could be totally off, but the price per unit just for the materials for like CD packaging, it's like less than $1. So
For the most part.
yeah, this I mean, it could have been a lot more than that. I don't know, and I kind of wish I can't remember what I paid for this, but yeah, it's pretty incredible, just the attention to detail. And I mean, Melvins have always had pretty cool artwork for a lot of what they've put
I also
out,
like to
but
know that King Buzzle had that kind of pull, to just demand such a.
yeah,
Like,
yeah,
I mean, I don't know what Hydra had felt about at time, but they're that kind of, manufacturer label that would take those kind of risks, because it is a huge risk.
it is, because oh yeah, to dump that type of money into something like this, but then what happens if it just ends up sitting on the shelf and people are buying it? Because this was also at a time too when Discogs didn't exist.
Yeah.
Um, People didn't really buy vinyl to flip it. Flippers
And that was
flippers didn't
before eBay got
contaminate the
eBay got stupid
hobby.
like it is now. You try to search for stuff on eBay, it's pretty much getting to the point of how Discogs is like now. Where like people just kind of price to whatever other people want to price it at, and they're like, well, that must be what I must be charging for this. So
Yeah.
you
Oh
end
yeah.
up with that problem.
Yeah. Yeah. So that is my flex for killer
That's a good
album
flex,
artwork.
man. That's I think there's a combination of everything going right. It's like the graphic design, because if you did all that and it just at the end of the day had shitty graphic design, what was the point, right? Yeah, the music's good, you know what I mean? But the kind of person buying this they're proud to have this thing on their shelf. The aesthetics do matter.
Well, that was also too when the album first came out. So that's just the regular LP. It's a great album. It really is. But what if the album wasn't received well and people like, God, like if the Melvins, like they put out an album called Prick that was just a lot of like just like tape loops played backwards and just weird stuff. What if the album just was awful?
That's
And
the thing with the Melvins, right? You don't know what you're gonna get with them. It's just they're all over the place, and I think that there's a certain kind of fan that is looking for the non run of the mill stuff, and they have a lot of that humor in their stuff too. So you don't know what is tongue in cheeky, you know what I mean, or what is bad intentionally. Like it's just like is this really a bad album, or is this something I'm like I don't get it. What are they doing?
well, okay, so Marty is the naysayer about it being pretentious. The thing is that by that point the Melvins had been around long enough where they're allowed to be pretentious. They've earned the right to pound their chest. Um, and but yeah, I would say is a Yeah, yeah. Um,
You hit a gray area with that because, like, okay, like Marty was saying, do you go with a 12-inch with an etching, or just a fork in the road, right? We can just go with a 10-incher on both sides and justify it that way. You know what I mean? We can go 7-inch, depending how long, because a record's what, 25 minutes, roughly per side.
mhm.
So, at that point, if it's not a full album, or an EP, mini LP, whatever, you're gonna hit that gray area. It's like, how do we want to present this?
Right, right. Yeah, yeah.
We can go
Um,
10-inch, but I got a killer etching thing I want to do to this. So we got to go 12-inch, to make it.
I think the four. I am on board with Marty here. I think that the double side or the 4 LP with the single sided with the etchings, um, not really what I would have wanted to see, but because then if you were to, and the thing is I've never played those, so I don't know if they're at 33 or 45. Um, if it's spread, I mean, really, it might be 45 RPM on both sides. I mean, on the sides that have music, yeah, they might be 45, because if you were to crunch that down into, well, I mean, it was just re-released recently,
Yeah.
like within the past couple years, and I think it was just a single LP. So those are probably 45 RPM.
Also
Um,
depends how much invested are you into your sound system. If you are running, a few thousand into your sound system, you're really proud of your sound system, you really like the way it sounds. Happen to flip more records is not going to bother you as much. You will actually enjoy the experience. You know what I mean? Because you know the quality output you're getting from it, or expect.
oh, and I notice and I enjoy the experience that much
There
more.
you go.
So, yeah, I'm very proud of my
You're the right
stereo.
clientele for this particular thing.
Yeah, they knew me well when they marketed that one. Um,
Yeah. But
so
I feel bad for the Crossley buyers. It's like, gotta
uh,
keep flipping this thing around. It's just like, it's gonna sound like shit. You're gonna have a shitty experience. You gotta flip more records. You
yeah,
know.
the Crosleys. This is one thing I hate about buying used records is that you don't know who had it before you, and I hate the fact that I might have records in my collection that were tarnished by a Crosley. It's oh oh. I wish that there was some sort of like a 23 and me, but of the
I
previous
was gonna say, if there's a
owners of a record.
you know, it's like the blue light shit. You put your phone, you kind of wave it around, and you got the tree rings, and you can kind of tell, like, okay, this was Crossley-fied.
Okay. So Marty, okay, right. I get it. Marty is a label owner, so he understands the overhead
Yeah.
and probably pain in the ass to ship, and then when you get customers complaining because a seam split in the mail or something. Um, I get it, and
Sell it as new, or mint, at that point.
um, but then again, too, the Melvins are one of those bands where they could, if they're like, hey, we want this super elaborate packaging and we want it to be really complicated and expensive to produce, then the label is going to be like, all right, fine, because they know a lot of people are going to buy it. So, all right. So that's what I had. Rick, what do you have to show that's just something totally awesome?
Uh, well, let me ride off your coattail for a minute, because I did pull something that's, you started out with spot color, right? And
Yeah.
I think one good example, if I don't know if I have it in order, like, it doesn't always have to be this over the top packaging, like kind of what you showed. You showed the monster right up front, man. Like, the big bag of gold. So I don't have anything quite that substantial. But this is like a power violence band called Rotten Hell, and the reason I pulled it is because it's a good example of striking artwork. It's a one color thing, one color. It's a silver ink right here.
Okay.
And this could have easily have been an etching, you know what I mean? Like just thrown in there, but it's just a simple one-sided thing, right here, you know. And but you looking at this at the shelf, it does make you curious, you know what I mean? And I feel like that it justifies this particular kind of special treatment because it's so stark. It's very high in contrast. It doesn't need a whole lot of what do you call it, embellishments, you know, they're gonna draw you in. Plus, for the particular genre that it is, you know, it's like when these hardcore punk, power violence, noise kind of things, it's a very get in, get out kind of listens. You know, it's not something that's huge and expansive. So I think that giving it something with this kind of treatment, I think that they went for something quick. It's a very silk screen kind of world kind of thing. You know what I mean? It has a very underground kind of appeal to it. And I think that the problem with this is that I wasn't sure how it was going to look on camera because it looks a lot prettier in person. Like it does have a certain shine to it, which I don't think the camera's picking up in the kind of way. It just looks like flat, you know, just color, which it is, but there's more of a sheen to it, you know, up in person. But I think it's a really good example of a single color kind of a thing, kind of thrown together. I think there was, if I could pull one more here. Yeah, so here's an example. So this is a black metal release from the US, came out a little while back. They haven't released anything in a while. But this is Terrorism, Via Negativa. Nice Mark Riddick artwork. And this is kind of not quite spot color. It's just white. And this is an example where they didn't really need to go over the top with a giant logo and a whole bunch of shit going on. It's like, let the art speak for itself. The kind of person looking at something like this, it's, you kind of know what you're getting, you know. It's got that sort of really classic sounding style of Nordic black metal, you know, even though it's based in the US. And it just draws you in, right? And they put all the details in the back over here. And I think it's a package. It's really, really nice, you know. I like the fact that they did the lyrics. I don't know how you feel about the lyrics being on the actual gatefold itself. I find it very convenient, you know, with everything there.
Right.
But the reason I pulled this is because you were showing the etching, right? But there's also the other element of the silk screen print.
Oh, okay, the silk screen B-side, yeah.
Or it is a double LP, so you do get this, which is really, really cool. And this is what I was talking about earlier, where this is not Mark Riddick artwork. You can tell it doesn't have a kind of finesse that you're familiar with when it comes to that kind of stuff. But I get why they did it. There's a certain tie-in, and they would have had to pay Mark for two pieces of art.
Right.
On there, so they got kind of like a, you know, I'm not trying to insult the artist, but it's not Mark Riddick, right? To do this, they got like, well, give me something that's very Riddick adjacent, but you know, but still kind of fits the theme of the album. So the entire color scheme is a simple black and white, but it fits the genre, it fits the sound, it all comes together. So this is why I think it's a good example of a packaging that works very monochrome, but it fits for what it is. They could have done like the usual, you know, photography, black and white photo in the forest with the, you know, with the torch or something, but they didn't do that. You know, they kind of went with this.
Is that are there two different band logos? It looks like on the silk screen that it's a different logo than on the or is it the same?
It's the same.
Okay, so the one on the LP looks like blood dripping from it, or something like that.
Yeah, I think the artist kind of added that in there.
Okay,
it's just
that's
like
cool.
It's like, well, because they know, okay, this is going to be stamped on dead wax, so they're like, can you like give us a little more? So you know, so it's not, there's not so much white well, I was going to say white space, black space in this case. But I think that going with what you're saying, I kind of took it another step back and just kind of made it where it's simple, like the Rotten Hell, it's just one color, ink, silver. I don't know what spot color, Pantone color they used on that, but it fits the sound. You don't have to. You can still look very good, fit the theme, and still keep it very, very simple. In this case,
I'm sorry.
I say in this case it's simple. The artwork itself is elaborate, but the design itself is simple. It's just a logo, art, and obviously the title.
So that was printed on the shell, or the jacket was white, and then they printed the black ink over it. Is it black ink on white, or is that like a 4-color black, or is it?
I believe they printed black over it.
Yeah. Okay.
That's a lot of black. Yeah.
That's cool. Yeah, a lot of times too, just simple, like just one color, just black ink on your material is all that you need. Yeah, that's cool.
It's also nice to see, like, Riddick, doing some stuff within the black metal world. It's like, what is it, like 90% of his stuff is in the death metal world, right? What the etching or the silk screen one, Scott is saying Mark Riddick from Temu. I don't want to be that insulting. I'm sure like the artist has a lot of good body of work. It's not that it's bad artwork. It's just you're putting it neck to neck with Mark Riddick, like on the same packaging. It's like, it's kind of unfair. It's like being a really good band, but you're opening up for a band that everybody wants to see. They're not there to see you.
So, okay, now since we're on the topic of Mark Riddick, I didn't even notice this, but I bought a 7-inch years ago. That was a split that his band did with Coffins, a split 7-inch Coffins, and then his band, Macabra or something like that. This was a split 7-inch put out by Horror, Pain, Gore, Death. And so I just framed the poster that came with the 7-inch, because I've been framing like a lot of my old flyers and stuff like that. So I just this was the logo from his band. But when I dug out the 7-inch, well, the poster, the 7-inch itself, I think, is in another box somewhere. But I was like, holy shit, that's Mark Riddick, because there's also a screen printed insert that came with it. And I was like, that guy looks familiar. I was like, oh shit, that's Riddick who did all of that. So
it's so.
And this was pretty old too. I've had that for a long time. But
I think there's a few of those posters I have in packaged like that I do plan to get around to in framing one day, just because I run into those kind of instances where, like, damn, like it's not that frequent when I think the stuff is very, what you call, frameable worthy, where like there's a lot of good stuff in there, but to get to that place where you graduate to, I really want to frame this, it's a little few and far between. But something like a Riddick will I'm a sucker for that. That would pull me in.
Yeah, I'm finally, after all of these years, I'm finally framing a bunch of that old stuff to hang up, because my walls are like bare for the most part.
That's the collector dilemma too, right? It's like, I want the wall space for my media, but at the same time, it's like I want to hang shit too. It's like, how do I work this?
So one thing Marty here is saying, going back to the Melvins box set, we have how many times they rejected the advanced in the proofing stage. Colors may have been wrong. Who knows again? Yeah. I mean, producing stuff like that, guaranteed. I mean, just in commercial printing. I mean, I remember times when I was working on some magazines for Condé Nast and stuff like that, and they would go like 6, 7, 8 rounds of corrections on things. So yeah, who knows? I mean, the bottom line is what they were charging for the finished product.
Yeah.
probably would have recouped any expenses.
You only see the finished result, right? So as a consumer, so you can't get that sense of appreciation when you're paying good money for something versus the work that was involved in the stages of rejections, along the way. Integrity Guitars. Oh, awesome. Was it Aaron Melnick? Integrity has had quite a running cast of members coming in and out. Uh,
It's a dude, Dominic, I think is his name. He's
oh,
played in a few other bands too. A389. It doesn't seem like there's much coming out on that label anymore, but for a while there was some really good stuff on A389. I think the label was based out of Baltimore.
cool.
Yeah, okay, cool. Yeah, Rick, good polls. Those were definitely cool. It's the artwork too, definitely, and it's not crazy looking or anything like that. It worked well. Um, okay, yeah. Let's see here. All right, cool. Um,
Hmm.
that Melvin's box, $300. The one that I have, it might be. I mean, back when I bought it when it was new, it was probably maybe around like
Yeah.
50.
Is there like a Temu version of that? Because I don't know if I dropped 300. I don't know. Great of an album as it is, but man, that price is too rich for my blood.
Yeah, I'm framing posters right now too, and finally just getting. I have like, because I would go to a show and like I just picked this one up, which is really cool. When I saw Orchid play at the Metro Theater, so I bought this.
Ooh, wow.
And I just got this frame, so I'm gonna start decorating the place. And
You threw me off with the Orchid 2024 because this guy's have not released an album in forever. It's like, what's up with that, man? Like,
right, yeah. But hey, like get a metal chick over here and impress her with pictures of skulls all over my walls, and
this is why we do this, man. I got all this stuff up here just for that, the off chance.
oh yeah, we do that. You have a girl coming over, and then you go out and you kind of get like your really cool looking records and set them out on display, and all right. So we both showed something awesome. I'm going to show something terrible. Something terrible, and take a wild guess at what record label put this out.
I can say from a sonically perspective, where where they're talking about from a visual.
No, strictly. Oh no, yeah.
Are we talking about earache here?
Yes, we are. We are talking about earache, and we're talking about the Bolt Thrower Live War.
Okay, I've seen that floating around. Yep.
That they put out, and this is an example of the poor use of repurposing artwork. And it's a poor example of typesetting and everything. So the artwork itself is cool looking. It looks like it was probably something that they purchased the rights to from I don't know what artist did this, but because the artist, they'll have just artwork that they sell. It's not each piece is commissioned, and specifically, it's like they have books of art, and you go like, I like that one. I'll pay for the rights for that. Now this artwork was originally used on a box set that Earache put out. That was of the first 4 the Earache Bolt Thrower albums. A box set, I want to say maybe around 2010, 2013 or so. This image was used on the cover of that box set. And the dimensions of the box set were probably like 12 and a half by 12 and a half. when they released this, just the single LP for the Live War, which when this was originally only available as the double disc version of For Victory, the double disc version of For Victory, which I think was like a UK import. The Live War album was the
Oh,
second disc that was included with that. So they used the same artwork. What's horrible is the logo. So the logo is completely outside of what would be your safety area for, and
yeah.
where
I can
usually,
see it clipped already on top.
oh yeah, and so in print there's a safety, and it's a safe margin where any live type or important detail, keep it within the margin. A lot of times it's a quarter to a half an inch inside of, from your trim area or where it folds over. This, they took the image that was used for that box set and then just scaled it up to fit the dimensions. And let me go make myself big right here. And then what they did was, um, you can see the logo at the top here. It wraps around like it's cut off here at the top.
Yeah.
And then the logo, it's right here on where the sleeve opens up, it's almost cut off. It's that close to the edge, to the trim. It's not even centered correctly. There's more space right here on, the right hand side, or the left hand side, than there is on this side. I mean, it's awful, the way that this logo looks.
Had they,
It's
had they hired us, or the way I'm looking at it is, I would have. I don't know if it was blown up from a small source or whatever, but I would have added bleed all the way around the edges. You know what I mean? And it looks
yeah.
like they didn't want to take that route. They kind of just bumped everything to the edge, and with no regard for adding excess pieces of image all around for the
I
four sides.
I don't understand why they wouldn't have just, you know, because there had to be more to the image area. Like why would you have just taken your TIFF, your flattened TIFF file with the logo flattened into the image area and then just send that? Why not take the artwork and then reposition the logo so that way it's scaled within your safe areas
Mhm.
of the print, and it's not, it's fucking cut off right here at the top. And so that's horrible number one. Horrible number two, and this is something I hate, and I see it all the time, and is when the spacing between the letters is wrong.
Ooh,
I forget, is that tracking or kerning?
it's
Uh,
it's kerning, and that stuff now, like with modern software, you can optically automate that. They didn't turn on that function.
yeah,
Like it looks like one word, right? Like just live war. Like
li-
what is
yeah, right. Like right here, it looks like live war, but this is what really gets me right here is the spacing between the W and the A. Right here. Like your designer, whoever did this, should have gone in and adjusted the kerning so that way the spacing was even between these letters, and that way there was more of a gap. But it looks awful, and I see that all the time, and this is such an awful example of that. I don't understand why they wouldn't have paid a designer just a little extra more to just get your typesetting correct. There's no way that, in my experience when I worked with materials, that any of this would have ever passed QA at all. I mean, it's
Well,
terrible.
while we're on the that live war rants, if it were me, I would have added a little more. What do you call it? Something in the background. It's like see how there's like a white stroke around it, or like a white glow behind the words, but
Yeah.
there's not enough of that because it does get lost in the artwork. There's just
Hmm.
so much going on with the artwork, you can almost overlook that there's a title there. You know,
Right. Yeah. It's they commissioned, they got the rights for this image, and they just slapped text on instead of to the printer. Um, it Yeah, I don't know. It looks awful.
If I can make an analogy, the way Eric is operating nowadays, it's like these labels get so big and comfortable for their britches that they all about just pumping out products and costs, the cost margins, that they get a little myopic about stuff. And I feel like it's like the way the modern cars are. It's like we're gonna fucking pad the prices on these. It's gone downhill. Anybody who's ever shopped around for a new car, I feel like
I
earache is kind
yeah.
of.
I mean, I don't understand why earache. And here we are again. Like even the center label, the same thing with the kerning right there drives me insane when I see that.
The center label is a big tell, and when that shit's not centered, it drives me nuts.
Oh yeah, it's oh god, I hate it. But yeah, I don't know what earache deal is. I mean, their legacy catalog is prolific. I mean, it's so I don't know if it's just that they need to pay that much more in royalties to the performers or what or I mean,
Yeah.
don't even get me started on the digipacks. Like the digipacks are yeah, well, okay, well I have one right here to show. So the classic earache digipack.
Talk about
Um
bare bones, man. They're the poster child of fucking bare bones.
the only thing that's a step up or the only thing that this is an improvement upon is remember when you would buy like software back when you would get a CD-ROM of something and it came in that white paper insert or sleeve, that the CD-ROM came in. Like
Yeah.
this is the earache digipack is just like a step up from that in terms of quality. And then the fact that they're like, oh, for the liner notes, go download a PDF of the fucking liner notes. It's the one thing that I will say that I do appreciate about earache is that they keep the original sound on a lot of the releases.
Yeah.
And I like that. That's what I like. So at least they keep the original
That
sound
is their only
for the most
saving
part.
grace, right? It's their only saving grace. It's the fact
Yeah.
that at least it doesn't sound like shit. But for a physical collector, circa 2024, 2025, it's like the fact we're throwing real money at physical media, like we kind of want a little more for our money. Like that's completely has a very disposable kind of just aura about it. It's like you could buy this, but we don't expect the shit to last. This is your 25,000 mile engine right here. Like we don't expect
Yeah.
you to keep this thing forever. Like,
Yeah. And so I also have this on vinyl too, but I have one of the earache, the FDR represses of this, and they scanned the album art. And
oh,
I've seen worse. I have seen worse, but I can immediately tell when something was not printed from the original files. There's always that quality that's lost of when it's being reproduced from art instead of being reproduced from the original files, and the thing that I don't understand is that this painting, stuff like this is usually in the public domain. They could have easily have gone and just gotten the high res TIFF of the artwork, probably from the Library of Congress or somewhere, and the same image, and then just slap the logo on, and then there,
can I paint you a scenario?
yeah.
A real life scenario. So where I work at, right? We have literal warehouses of paintings, like originals, like
Mhm.
just originals paintings, and a lot of it's religious stuff, right? It's and a lot of it has this what do you call it? The Timu Renaissance painting versions of this stuff, right? So as a production artist, I get myself put in a position where I have a choice. I can pick up a scanned. I got a job, plop artwork, output product. Okay, I can go through the servers, dig for some files. There's the painting. But I also have the option of going way back in the warehouse, go through the catalog, try and find this shit, pull it back, scan it. Might take me all day.
Mhm.
or I could just run through the server that somebody else has scanned. I don't know how well it was scanned. I
Yeah.
don't know what the original painting looks like in comparison. I could find out, but it's not my problem. Like
Right.
it's like,
Right.
I'm just assigned to plop this thing in there, pull up, because my performance on how well this thing looks will not give me the motivation. It will not increase my pay, or reward me in any further way, so I wonder if Eric has this dilemma, within their internal art departments.
Uh, if they even have an art department, like why the reason why I want to know why they cut corners. And the thing is that you know they must think that people they because it's still priced pretty cheap. Like if you the stuff that I buy from Earache, I usually mail order from the UK from
Mm,
Earache. It ends up being a lot cheaper than buying anything here in the States. Um, typically like a single LP, if I buy it directly from Earache in the UK, ends up costing around $19. But here in the States, you're getting upwards of 30 because the record stores just will will
yeah.
just charge you shipping in their retail price. Um, I don't
Sometimes
know why there's got to be some logic behind it of why.
I also wondering if it's the staff or the management behind that, if they just need new blood in there, man. Like, is it the same people who've been there for the last 20, 30 years who just have not, it's time for them to move on, and get some people in there that actually care about making a bit of a revolution within that label, just really turning things around. I don't see, if people are still buying this anyway, I don't see where the incentive is, for them.
Right.
The evidence is right there. You have it in your hand. You clearly bought it. I got a few in my stash. We're guilty, just as guilty in a lot of ways, for contributing to the problem.
Well, I mean, so much of it is just incredible music. You need to own it. I mean,
Yeah,
back a lot of my earache stuff, my OGs are for the most part mostly CDs. Just because at that time in my life I was buying CDs. I do have some OG earache vinyl, but it's mostly all CDs. So, a lot of that stuff I do want it on vinyl. So I'll just buy like 5 or 10 records from Earache, where I end up paying net cost is like $19 a piece. Just so I can have like, the carcass stuff on vinyl, and there is, yeah, what Marty was saying right here in the chat about the reek of putrefaction that has that one's horrible. The one where it's just like
yeah,
the bar right across. My understanding, I saw in a chat somewhere um with one of the guys from Earache, is that if they didn't censor it, then there were a lot of record stores that would not carry it. I don't know why they couldn't have just put it in a, well, again, well, okay, just censor it with put a sleeve over it, or
yeah.
something like that.
You
Put
know
it
what
in.
I would have done? I would have done. Do you know the Dillinger, like the calculating infinity, and it had like the black with with it that kind of just opens up.
Mhm.
It's got the over. If you're going if you're going to do that, what I mean, that's one way you could have approached the problem. You still could have had your little peekaboo gore in that little slit, but you can also have the option of removing that and having your cake and eat it too, and have the whole artwork.
Yeah,
If
yeah.
you're gonna censor it.
I'm sure, like what Wilson says here too, and it's true, is that a lot of times the original files aren't available anymore. Um,
True.
and again, we're collectors, we're passionate, we love the music,
A
so
disgruntled employee
but
hit the delete on the file. On
yeah,
the
but for them, there are probably contract disputes in the background, and so
Yeah.
they're just like, yeah, just fuck it, just scan the LP and just use that. Fuck those guys, give them their royalties and get them off my ass. Um,
They're still bitter about not having to use the original Warhammer artwork. You know, they're just like, you know, that's their retaliation.
All right, Rick, you're up. Time to show something awful.
Okay. Let's do.
If you pulled anything that's a bad example of print design.
Yeah. Let me show a 2024 release, and it is. I didn't put it in order, so I have to just kind of go through my. Okay, here we go. So I wouldn't call this awful. I just feel like it's a missed opportunity, and I feel like they had the budget to pull this off, and it really would have worked with the aesthetics of it. And that's the latest Lucifer album, right here. I don't know if it's a band you follow, whatever, doom rock, you know, doom metal. It's as you can see, she's in the casket over here, and it opens up like this, right? So, well, they're all in the casket here, right? So, but here we are, you know, and it kind of fades into this here. But if I was given, what do you call it? If I was put in charge of this project, I would have made this casket shaped. You have a 12-inch area to work with, and you have corners that you're free, because a lot of it is wasted space, right? You got a circular piece of media, and you got kind of all this empty space here. It still would have allowed for a trim, kind of like an angled trim to follow the contour of this here, and give it a bit, and kind of just finish it off another contour here, and give it like a nice coffin shape, because they're already unorthodox. They're already, it opens up like this, and it opens up this way. It's like, why not just go all the way? Why not just give it a nice little angled? You don't have to go extreme. It doesn't need an elaborate die cut. You know, you just could have had something that's a little kind of trimmed this way, and it would have been so much cooler. Kind of just giving it that.
Is that on Candlelight?
Nuclear Blast.
Nuclear Blast. Okay.
Nuclear Blast. They're not a Hydra head. They're not a quirky label who does a lot of this. They're very just run of the mill when it comes to this kind of thing. You know, with, you know, they're more about the colored vinyl. That's kind of what that's their gimmick, right? We're gonna do the colored vinyl, right? But that's what they do.
That's all that they do is that shit too.
I am 100% sure you would have, someone like yourself would have went with the special shape with the black vinyl rather than the regular shape with colored vinyl. You know, if you were given the option.
Well, and you know, another thing too is with all of that black ink there is something on the coated stock. It just doesn't look right, you know, because you have a glare for, you know, like I would have done something different, maybe like a matte stock, or you know, something about just the ordinary coated stock look with all of that black ink just looks sort of bland. I
would I almost feel like making like a Photoshop mock-up of what I'm talking about and make it like an Instagram post, and then just be like, you know, and fucking, you know, and tagging Nuclear Blast. It'd be like, this could have been you guys. This could have been you. You guys could have done this.
I think that their early stuff weren't they on Rise Above Records, like their early stuff?
Yeah, as a matter of fact, who was the one guy who the guitar for Cathedral was in that first album? Which, you know, it made sense. Their first album is still my favorite album, by the way. You know, but you know, I like their output. I like their sound. But like I said, they're treading more on the rock than the doom side of it. You know, nowadays when it comes to this. But another faux pas too is the text on there. I feel like if you're gonna go with the small font, and it's like, you know, they could have added a little more space between the lines. You know, just to kind of make it a little easier to read. I almost feel like a lot of these people who designed this stuff, they need to be given like glasses that are a little blurry. That way, if you could still see it with the blurry glasses, then you're good. Then the people over 40 wouldn't struggle so much. You know what I mean? And I don't wear glasses, and I still struggle with this.
That looks really shitty. I mean, like the way that type is set would be for the CD. version, you know? Like that looks stupid. You just have so much empty space there.
I almost feel like too, like what all these guys do is they will take the what do you call it, when it is designed a certain kind of way, they make it proportional, the CD and the LP. It doesn't have to be, folks. It doesn't have to be. If you want to make it larger, you know, you have the room available. It's like, it's not going to hurt the design like you think it will. You know what I mean? Why does everybody feel like it has to be this very intricate, small, you know, I get it, but it's like one of those style over substance kind of situations. And this is a good example of that.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
but,
Yeah, that's they could have done more, but you know, that's the thing too. And I have the next one that I show is sort of, there's a connection there with bands, and sort of because Rise Above Records put out a lot of stuff that was you know, screen printed LP covers, and you know, special materials and things like that. But then a lot of those bands, they went over to Candlelight or to Plastic Head or Nuclear Blast, and those big corporate labels, it's just all just the ordinary run of the mill LP package.
yeah,
you
kind of what I was saying with Nuclear Blast. They're one of those guys, you know.
Yeah.
Unfortunately,
it's where it's just some bland LP package like that, but then probably 14 different colored variants for the vinyl, you know, some bullshit like that.
and it's like, you, the thing is, you only have one set of artwork, right? And when you have like given 14 options of color variant, really there's only going to be one or two really awesome variants that would go ideally with the cover. The rest are just kind of just extras.
Yeah.
You know how you can tell when you hop to places like Bandcamp, you know, and you're given all those options, those are the ones that sell out first. You know, it's like, yeah, you can have the Ober limited run, but then the ones with the better colors, you know, because they just happen to go best with the artwork, you know, are the ones that go. I don't know if you guys are aware of that phenomenon. You know, like I happen to notice.
I've noticed that, and then Nuclear Blast is one of those ones, just like Relapse, where they don't even press anything on black vinyl anymore. It's just all color.
Yeah, what is up with that? Sometimes black is the best color, you know, like when it comes to like certain designs. I mean, from a design standpoint, like you know, like I know why you prefer black in all cases, but I'm saying, but from speaking from an aesthetic side, sometimes black is the best color. If you're not even given that option to begin with, it's like, what are you thinking?
Right. Yeah, exactly. All right. Cool. Good one. Good one. So this next one that I'm going to show is an example of really cool album artwork. It's not a fancy box set like the Melvins one that I showed. And but also there is a connection too between what Rick just showed. Let me make myself big. Well, hold on. I want to get Rick in the picture too. Damn it, I got to figure out how to do this shit. There we go. There we go. All right. So this one is Electric Wizard, Which Cult Today? This is an original OG when this album came out, which really it's my favorite Electric Wizard album. And for anyone watching, I'm trying to get people together to do an Electric Wizard deep dive with me, but nobody wants to do it.
They just put out that live album.
I bought that one too, and I'm disappointed because my favorite song is not on that album, but it's still really good. But yeah, so if anyone's watching and is interested in being part of my Electric Wizard deep dive, DM me on Instagram, and we can collaborate.
I need some time to catch up on the catalog again because it's been a while, but I might be down.
I've finally, after probably like about 10 plus years of not really paying attention, I've gotten back into them, and I'm like, damn, this is really good fucking like doom metal here. So, but all right, so on to this. This was the original that was released on Rise Above Records, and I mean, you can tell from it's you have your metallic silver right there, you know. And then there's also the eyes. You can see that there's the demon's eyes are red.
Yeah.
Um, and this one is just really cool. Electric Wizard have always had some really cool album art. And this is an example of where changing labels impacted the quality of their album art. Because this is the last album that they had on Rise Above Records. After this, starting with Black Masses, they I'm pretty sure Black Mass is when they went over to Spine Farm. And Spine Farm, I believe, is owned by Candlelight or Plastic Head, something like in the UK.
Yeah. I know the
So
association. Uh,
yeah, so yeah, but by that point, once they're on Spine Farm, then now it's a corporate label, and then everything has just been since then just been your average run of the mill type of packaging that everyone gets, nothing really fancy. But the attention to detail on this one, the back too, that's just really cool. It's a good amount of handwork is involved in creating something like this.
it's a gimmicky font, but it fits the theme, and you can still read it, despite all the stuff around it.
And this is something too that I notice a lot is that a lot of times if the spine doesn't wrap over, if it's something where the spine you could tell was a separate file, a lot of times it doesn't line up correctly for the number of for how thick the LP jacket is. I see that a lot. And so, okay, so on the inside here, you have
That's a lot of foil, though, man. Holy shit!
oh yeah, and trust me, it's
You
a
need
lot of
sunglasses to
fingerprint
wear that
shit.
outside. Yeah, to like
Yeah.
to walk around with it outside.
You could start fires by reflecting sunlight off of
Those
it.
candles.
So right here you have the band, and this is also a nice heavy stock too that this is on. It's not
Yeah.
flimsy.
It would
Um,
have to be to hold the integrity of that together.
yeah, and it's a double LP set. This was the neon green version that was released. I have two other pressings of this. One that was gray, and then there is a black 180-gram one that I own as well. But this one at the time, I think it was limited to like 100 copies or so. And
Yeah,
then there
I've
was
never seen that variant.
also the insert, and then the insert too. It's good. I mean, it's typical. Anyone familiar with Electric Wizard and like the type of imagery that they use from, um, I guess just um, I forget what. I'm not really a movie buff, so I forget what these type of movies are called. But the fact that I called it a movie and not a film proves that I'm not a buff. But yeah, all of it's really good. The typesetting, everything is like really high quality. Rise Above Records, everything that they put out. I think that there was a poster with this one. Okay, yeah. So this is the poster, screen printed poster. I should frame this.
That's pretty sweet.
Yeah, screen printed right there. So yeah, this was because this came with the Die Hard edition.
I'm a sucker for that screen printed look, man. Like just that really simple, like that nice dash of one color, but just done really, really well, like the way it is.
Yeah.
It's pretty cool.
So yeah, this is definitely really high quality LP packaging. Once they moved over to the corporate label, an example of when they moved over to Candlelight or whatever it is that they're on now,
Yeah.
there was a record store day reissue of one of their later albums, and the only difference was that they changed one of the spot plates. Time to Die is the album. There was a record store day version of that maybe like 3 years ago or something, and the only thing that they did differently, because it was just a corporate label, is, the artwork is black with like this gray sort of spooky looking character on it.
I do
And
recall. By that time, that's one of those albums that just didn't click with me. By that time, it's just, I think after Black Masses, I kind of dropped out.
yeah, and you know what? I went back and listened to Time to Die, and it's actually pretty good. And then same with
maybe I need to revisit it. It's just at the time, it just wasn't. I don't know. Maybe I wasn't a different headspace or whatever. But
yeah, Wizard Bloody Wizard is also really good. So that was let me see here. What was it? Thrash or Be Thrashed? Hold on. What is he saying here? He was like, I would do a wizard deep dive. Well, hell yeah, dude. DM me on Instagram and we'll team up on that one. I want to get some people to do an Electric Wizard deep dive.
I don't think I've seen Frederick ever show a Wizard album, but yeah. Okay, I'm sure he's got them. Never seen you show it though.
I have a huge stack. I was a big Wizard fan like years ago. So, all right, cool. That's what I have right there.
I got something. Yeah, I got something kind of adjacent. So she pulled that one. I think this would be a pretty good kind of thing because it's got foil on it. Not as much as that one, but but it does have foil on the spine, which is interesting. I don't know if you're familiar with this band. It's not a band a lot of people talk about very much. Profound Lore put this out, and it's Funeral Doom, but it's kind of more in that. It's like mixed Evoken with this embowelment. You know what I mean? So it sounds like a good time. Nice party record. That's Fuoco Fatuo. This is their last one, and I like it because they're letting the artwork really kind of draw you in, speak for itself. No giant elaborate logo. I like what Electric Wizard did and the way they just had that real melting kind of thing going on. But here it's just a balls out painting, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so when you turn it around. Obsidian Calabasas is the album. This is the last one they put out, and nice gold there. And I love the way they kind of had it's the little details, right? And the way it's just kind of just spread out. I think they're daggers. It's a really nice look. They're like, well, we're already paying for the foil. Fuck it, we'll foil our goddamn logo too while we're at it.
That's smart. I like that.
It's like they're footing the bill on this thing, and we're just gonna go and throw this thing on the spine, and it's there too.
Yeah. Okay.
So it's this is a band out of Italy, and I think that Profound Lore is really propping these guys up to be something larger, and I feel like they made some headway, but I feel like they came on. Made quite a bit of noise, but for some reason it's not really brought up all that much again. It's a really good album. Again, like the aforementioned bands, I think that this is something that you would really like. But here's where it gets kind of odd, right? So it's a gatefold. Now, give me your opinion on this. Do you think they should have kept this as a single or gatefold based on what's inside of here? Because when you open it up, you get this snake right here.
Okay.
It's just a big, nothing else. It's just an image.
Yeah.
It's a swirly snake in here. And they're already throwing in quite a bit of money on this. But I think had they not gone non-gatefold, I would have been okay with it. You know what I mean? It's like, I feel like I'm already getting a nice presentation without it.
I always say go for the gatefold. I like a gatefold, even though they're not really using much of the space. They're it's the inside of the gate there's not a whole lot there. I just say go with the gatefold. I like the larger spine on among the collection.
Maybe that's why.
Yeah, if that was just a jacket, the foil stamping, they probably couldn't have foil stamped that name on the spine. Probably would have been too small.
But the way it's also utilized here, I would have been. That's why I would have been fine. I wouldn't have been like, it wouldn't be much of a complaint. I do have one complaint overall with this, and it's so I'm gonna just pull out the record, right? And it's a double LP because there's a lot of music. If you are a fan of that Spectral Voice that came out. This is one of those bands you need to check out right here. It's kind of adjacent to a lot of that stuff. So what do you see? Black vinyl, right?
Mm-hmm.
But it's not. It's you have to hold it in a certain light, which I have a feeling it's not going to show up at all on the camera. But it's a galaxy swirl. It's really, really dark. So I feel like it was kind of a wasted opportunity. Like if you're going to do it, if you're going to go with, because this still qualifies as colored vinyl.
Right. Yeah.
Because it's really not black vinyl. It is. When you hold it up, I can see the swirl right now. I can see it very clearly. It just will not show up on camera. But when you just hold it up just at a casual glance, it's going to look like black vinyl. It's just really, but you have to make the effort of holding it up in the light to see that effect. So I don't feel like they're getting much of a benefit by going that direction.
Right.
We're doing that, I feel like if you're going to make something look a certain way, it should have been more obvious. I guess it's the word. So
is that like a dark green?
It's black. It's just, it's a smoky. It's like a smoke swirl. I forget what they called it. It was like galaxy swirl black something. But at the end of the day, you think you're getting black vinyl if you're picking it up at a record store, and it's one of those scenarios where like you're going to put on your record player. You have your, what do you call it, 10,000 lumen LED light, and you happen to finally notice this thing. Oh fuck! I bought a swirl. Didn't even realize it.
Right.
This is one of those scenarios. So that's my only quote complaint, right? Like I like it, but I don't think it has the impact that they were looking for. By doing this, I don't know if it would cost them any more or less to do it this way. But I feel like if this was just black, it wouldn't have made much of an effect, really, of a difference going this way.
With the PVC, the pucks that they get, I know that there's a charge for cleaning the stampers. So like because when they go from like black, but then if they're gonna say press a clear, something in a different color, then they need to clean the stamper. And I know that there's a cost for that. I know a lot of times too that if there are leftover colors from maybe a different run, completely unrelated run, then they'll throw that in for a different charge. But I don't really know how the pricing works for that. It's
profile lore too. So by this point they've got that stuff kind of the numbers worked out or how they're going to handle this. It's a newer band for them. Cool little insert. Like it does fit the theme of the snake. If you look, and then they kept the dagger. So there is some thought thrown together with the graphic design. It doesn't need to be overly complex or anything. It makes sense with the music. Again, if you like the disembowelment, Spectral Voice kind of stuff, like you dig this with a little bit of the funeral stuff, like a Vulcan kind of thrown in. So the minimal, expansive, but yet kept very dark, and dingy like this. I think fits what they were doing. I don't know how you feel about the fact with album covers like this. This is the opposite of a bolt thrower, right? You don't have the big fucking logo just taking up half the room. Yeah. This is going the other direction. There's like no logo. It's just
I like that bands are finally realizing that you don't need a logo or a title on the front. Like that's, I think the worst example of logo placement is Morbid Angel, Altars of Madness. The way that the Morbid Angel logo is placed on that, where it's to the side and at an angle, it's kind of like how a price tag would be put on something, or like a hype sticker is I've always hated that, the way that the Morbid Angel logo is just
they were trying to figure out where to put it. It's like, well, is this fucking big giant altar thing? It's like,
yeah. I'm glad that bands are finally realizing now that we don't need to have a logo on the cover. Our customers aren't idiots. They're not going to, I don't know who this is. How am I supposed to know what band this is? They don't have a big logo on the front of the LP art.
It's Seagrave, right? So I feel like well, it's an early death metal album of, I don't know what the earliest Seagrave death metal artwork was, but at the time, his name wasn't it's cemented like the way it is now.
Yeah.
And I feel like had that come out now, it would have been a lot more easier to see how that not having the logo there, would have been more justifiable. I mean, but people need to see it because like it's almost competing. Like you got this core artwork, and the Morbid Angel does kick ass, man. The logo, it's an awesome logo, and I'm glad
it's a cool logo. Yeah,
it's just done very tiny, and the treatment of where it's applied, like you said, it's like a supermarket sticker, on clearance
yeah.
meat. It's like,
right. Yeah, I've always hated that. I just it drives me crazy. But yeah, you're right too, because back then, I didn't even know who Seagrave was until years and years later. It's
yeah.
People didn't talk about the illustrators back then like they do nowadays. And
Now, yeah.
Chris Moyen was another one. I have a bunch of LPs that he did the illustrations for.
I'm still
Never
finding
even knew who the guy was for the longest time.
he was pumping out artwork, man, like bananas, just because I'm still finding stuff. But back in the day, I didn't realize. I'm like, oh, like that's Moyen. Oh, I didn't realize that was Moyen. Like, it's just
Yeah.
discovering.
Yeah, he did some stuff for Incantation. He did he's been around for years. Long time. But yeah. Nowadays, now that the artists, creating the album artwork are getting, more recognition. You don't want to cover up their artwork with your big stupid logo.
It's the worst. It's worse when it competes with the artwork. It's supposed to work in tandem. It's supposed to be this nice cohesive what do you call it, package. And right. Sometimes when you have the logo kind of intersected with everything else, it's just, and the thing is, it's a shame because sometimes the logo it is a kick-ass logo, but sometimes I love the way they did it here. You know what I mean? This is a correct treatment for something like this. You know what I mean? And this is not what I call an established band where like they're like this big household name. You know what I mean? Like, again, it's like for me to bring up this band, I'd have to bring up a name like Disembowelment. You know what I mean? Otherwise, but to somebody who would buy this would already be familiar with that band. You know what I mean? Like, this wouldn't be your first Funeral Doom, Death Doom album. Like, I mean, it'd be great if you're just getting into this and you pick this up, but I wouldn't expect you to. I would expect you to be going through the 101 motions of this genre before you finally run into this band, unless you just really like Profound Lore and just blind buy everything they have.
It's, I'll tell you one thing, that album artwork, it's no Halloween album art.
No, unfortunately.
Man, you want to talk about a band with some killer album artwork. Them and Running Wild, another band with just some amazing album artwork. Although I do kind of like the album art that just looks like it's a stock photo with some clip art placed over it, So something about that. So Concert Buddy here is gatefold is the way, also helps against splits from poor. Yeah, I like gatefolds. I always like gatefolds. I do. Profound Lore uses GZ Media. See, I wonder if GZ also does the printing though, because they press the records, but I wonder if they're also printing the jackets too. Because I know that some places, like I think, now like when you get into like the really high-end audiophile type of pressings, like from Analog Productions and Mobile Fidelity, companies like that, their record jackets are pressed at different.
I don't know if you can see too, but see how it's black inside?
Yeah.
It's all these little things, that you can tell there's some care put into it.
Yeah. When you get into the stuff like the Stoughton tip-on jackets and stuff, that's when you get into like the really heavy cardboard type of jackets, and those are usually pressed or printed at a different company does that. They print however many thousand that they need to, and then those are shipped to probably where the records are pressed, and then there are people there who, here's the jacket, and then they need to, put the record in a sleeve and then put it in there. That's why I don't believe at all that there's anything of, when you buy a record and it has a serial number, say it's like number 56 out of 500, there's always the thought that, oh, well, that is the 56th impression from the stamper. Like you're that much closer to the source. But I don't believe that there's ever been any real integrity in, the sequence of, this record was pressed here, number 56, and then this goes into the jacket with the serial number of 56 out of 500.
I have very limited knowledge, like on how often they have to run the stampers before they have to replace it. You know what I mean? Like, so what, like when you do a print run of, 250, 500 up to 1,000, but when you get to the 1,000, it's like, is it typical for them to be using that same stamper from the first stamp? You know what I mean? Like, at what point do they switch it out?
I mean, well, for the audiophile stuff, they'll change stampers, I think maybe around like 500 impressions, after like maybe 500 or 1,000 impressions. I can't remember, because after a certain number of impressions, the imprint starts to degrade slightly. I want to say that maybe like when you get into the super high-end audiophile stuff, maybe around 500 impressions is when they change stampers. Now the shit that we listen to, the nuclear blast, they're stamping thousands and thousands of records with the same stamper. And there's also another dirty secret too, is that a lot of the sources are just CD rips being pressed to vinyl. There's a lot of that shit going on too. Like the Deicide box set that I bought from Run Out Groove, like maybe about 2 years ago. I was all excited. It's like, oh man, all the Deicide, the Roadrunner years, and it's like 8 albums, and all the classic ones, and come to find out that CDs were used as the master source for pressing all of the vinyl, which is really disappointing. There's a lot of that shit going on, but just
I'm seeing it now too, man. Like when I go to a record store, I'm going back to my teen years, because a lot of those are coming out on vinyl finally, that weren't, because there was the big LP drop in the 90s. Everybody was buying CDs. It was the CD heyday, and a lot of those are getting reissued, and I'm always running through that thought in my mind, like, this shit cannot be analog sourced. I mean, I'm sure a lot of this is digitally sourced, because there was no vinyl of this. I don't recall seeing any vinyl of this at the time, when I was going to the Wall and fucking Camelot and these places.
The digital source is one thing, but the Red Book CD is something else, because the digital source, if your digital source is a DSD file where it's like ultra high res, where it's uncompressed digital audio, that's fine by my standards. I'm totally fine with that. The shit that pisses me off is when it's just a Red Book CD that's 16-bit 44.1, because then that album was mastered for the CD medium, but now what they're doing is they're just ripping the CD and then creating a vinyl master from that, which is shitty, and it sort of defeats the purpose, in my opinion at least. It defeats the purpose of even buying the vinyl to listen to it, because you're just listening to a CD that was pressed on vinyl. So
I was gonna say, it's a really good bullet point when you do see the mastered for vinyl tag on some of this stuff. You know what I mean? I think it does kind of give you some bit of a reassurance. But more, but that's too few far in between. Most of the time you will not see that.
Yeah. I mean, with metal, again, the stuff that we listen to, it's so many of the consumers just care more about the colored variant than they do about, the source. I mean, metal, there is a big, like, there are a lot of analog purists, definitely. There are. But the way in the audio world, audiophile side of things, where, like the whole chain of how everything goes, and then there's they find out there was a digital step, and now it's this big scandal and a lawsuit because DSD files were used instead, or it's
Wilson Tam, he talked about the deicide. I picked that up too, that box set. I was excited about it, and it was just finally, because I remember just coveting the fact of being able to own that on wax finally, and then when that came out about the CD rips, I was let down, but I still had that urge, that scum in you still wants to put the money down for that.
I know. I'm the same way. I do. Do CD rips for Nuclear Blast does CD rips for the reissues. Because when in Nuclear Blast, they're one of those labels where it's like they're just cranking out reissues left and right. When they're cranking out reissues like that, they're not going through the whole, process of getting the original master tapes and all of that. No, they're just ripping a CD and sending that to the printer or to the pressing plant.
It's like Madama. I can go back to the warehouse and go and seek the original paintings, but the file is right here. How it was scanned, I don't know, but it's just so easy to just place in Photoshop, blow up the shit. I guess it's the original colors. I guess it's a good scan. I guess.
So Thrasher B Thrashed says, Rick knows my views about colored LPs. I have a feeling he hates colored vinyl just as much as I do.
Oh,
and
yeah.
If that's the case, I like him a lot. I'm
a
black.
Frederick share the same sentiment. He's old school like you, man. Although Frederick's also old in general.
Yeah. All right. I love Frederick. I like you, and you said you want to do the Electric Wizard deep dive too. So you're an all right guy in my book.
He's in Australia time though, so you'd have to catch him on the. No, he'll hop in anytime.
Oh. Right. Yeah. Okay. And then what else? Didn't Testament uses CD rips for? Yeah. Again, the same thing. The Dismember ones. When a band's entire discography is just repressed, it's all that shit's coming from fucking CDs. That's why I wasn't. I mean, I did buy the first couple Dismember ones on vinyl just because I wanted them on vinyl, but it's stupid fucking colored vinyl. I really like the last Dismember album a lot. I didn't buy that on vinyl though because it's on gold vinyl, and gold vinyl, silver vinyl all sound like shit. Just like how glow in the dark vinyl just sounds like shit too. But yeah, gold and silver sound like shit. I did buy the first 4 Dismember albums. I did buy those on vinyl just to have them, but it's stupid fucking colored vinyl. Yeah, I mean, if the a digital source isn't a bad thing. It just depends what digital source they're using. If they're using uncompressed audio like DSD or files, then yeah, I mean that's fine. But it's when they're using a Redbook CD as the source, especially when you get into shit that's brick walled like crazy. Like
that's the issue with not mastering for vinyl. Like it's not particular to the media. It's just they're just taking this and plopping it onto the stamper as is and not doing much with it. They might pull a few little knobs here and there, but nothing substantial. I know the ones that are done right, they have different. Like I look at it and I see different mastering credits. You know what I mean? this person mastered this person mastered this, but it's particular to the media. You can have the same guy master it in multiple medias. You're a badass if you can do that. you know, but but I don't see that frequently enough, especially for those really classic albums, where like it deserves that treatment.
Oh, definitely. And this is where labels like Earache, they're making a mistake. They don't understand that your consumer base is dudes in their 40s and 50s who want the super high quality stuff. They treat their product like it's 19-year-olds buying Morbid Angel albums, and it's not. And the thing about Earache too is like everything that they put out, it really has that print on demand feel to it. Like Shutterfly and companies like that, where you can upload a picture of your dog and get it printed on a coffee cup and a mouse pad and a calendar and all of that. Everything Earache puts out has that print on demand feel.
There's a less special thing about it. It's like when I go to like Season of Mist or something, and I get one of their print on demand shirts, and I'm like, they just took a press thing and just fucking direct to garment, whatever the hell they do, and just but I get it. If you actually run one of these businesses, you have to keep on top of the inventory and distribution. From that perspective, I can understand why they make these decisions. You know what I mean? But there's something special about a nice, small run, and it's just a lot of more attention put into it. But I've gotten stuff like hats, for example, where like the logo is not even centered. I don't know if you ever run into that problem.
Oh yeah.
Where the hell's the quality control in this thing? I had a return. That's why I don't really buy hats anymore, because I ran into that problem a little too many times where they had to return it, or they'd have to reimburse me because you can't get something simple like centering the logo on the damn hat. You don't notice it much.
And you have hair.
And I have hair.
Well, you're not bald like I am.
This is an obstacle I need to remove to make it fit better, right?
All right. I have one more that I'm going to show, and then you can show one more, then we're going to call it a night.
Cool.
And what I'm going to show is something that it's really cool album art, but in reproducing it for the LP, it could have been done better and look better if they did things differently. And what this is the Domcraft Slowmatics split 12-inch. Really awesome album art. Like the illustration, it's a gatefold, so you have that on the outside, the back cover and the front cover, and then on the inside, again, another really cool illustration. The thing about this that could have made it look better is it's on a coated stock. Now, the illustrator did this all in colored pencil. If they printed this on a matte stock, it would have looked a lot cooler. Because in the printing process, like when you print something that is done with like colored pencils, something where there's not a lot of saturation, because colored pencils, there's like no saturation, or line art, something that's just black ink and nothing else. Line art, colored pencils.
Watercolors can do that too, I've noticed. You can go really saturated with watercolors, but more often than not, there's so much gradations happening that you end up with a lot of muted areas anyway.
Yeah. And things like that look really good on a matte stock. So it's coated, but if they went with a matte stock, then this artwork, I've seen pencil drawings that were printed on matte stock, and it looked like the original. It just reproduces that well on a matte stock. Pencil art, something that's written by hand, things like that. This is kind of getting to where, the texture and the type of material that this is reproduced on because a thing too is the illustrator, when he was drawing this, wasn't drawing it on a coated heavy stock like this. You know,
No.
it's the paper that he was drawing on, he or she, I don't know, was a matte piece, you know, matte stock
This is the kind of thing that, right? Because we're going back to art school. It's like we're making these decisions. Do I go cold press, hot press? You know, do I go Bristol board? You know,
yeah.
there's all these little things that you won't see the result of when on the final paper that is going to be on, you know, printed. There's just the source artwork, and then by the time they hand it off to the art department or whatever, you know, they have no control over what paper it's going to end up on, whether it's matte, gloss.
Mm-hmm.
In this case, somebody knew what they were doing.
Yeah, so this was okay. So this was mastered by James Plotkin, illustration and design by Roland Scriver. Not familiar with him. I mean, it's awesome album artwork, but that's the one thing that I thought about, like when I see this, is that, you know, if it was printed on a matte stock, it really would have looked more truer to how it originally looked.
That's a good point. I didn't think about that too much when it came to the media when I was pulling stuff for tonight. Whether the stock itself and how it paired well with the media of the artwork itself.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I could see why you pulled that.
Yeah, yeah. It's, you know, because there are times too, like an example of something that is printed on matte stock and it looks like shit is Cosmic Key Creations reissued the early Sinister albums, and Cross the Sticks is printed on a matte stock and it looks like garbage because it's a lot of 4-color black ink, which on uncoated stock doesn't, it looks gray because that's the thing too, is that, you know, matte stock can't hold the saturation. It can't hold all of that ink. And then, you know, the part of Cross the Sticks where there's the skull and there's all the fire and everything, all of that flattens out and detail is lost because the matte stock can't hold all of that saturation. So I wanted to show that tonight as like an example of.
I did pick that up. It's the one with it's a clear with the splatter, which I was a little annoyed by because it wasn't even like done very well. It's like it's mostly clear with a little bit of the splatter thrown in.
Yeah.
I feel like it was just messily done at the same time, but it's a great album. That's why I picked it up. But I feel like, yeah, the presentation could have been better. Classic artwork, a whole lot of black.
Yeah.
But the media kind of ruins the experience. Like,
oh yeah,
what it's on. So
it looks terrible on that type of stock. So, but yeah. Anyways, all right. How about one more, and then we're gonna call it a night.
One more. I'm gonna switch it up and finish with a CD. I don't think we brought one.
Yeah, I have some CDs pulled, but don't really have time to show them, so we can show them again another time.
I'll throw one special one because it's just one I got recently. It's Grindcore. So this is a reissue of their demo. I kept it in the sleeve so you can see how it was packaged. So this is General Surgery. This is their demo collection. Formative Forensic Transgression. So it's got a nice, like, I guess, outer slip right here. I'm generally not a fan of outer slips, but I feel like the way they handle this, I'm okay with, you know. Yeah. But for the most part, they do annoy me because I feel like, especially if the artwork is the same as the jewel.
Yeah, like, yeah. There are a lot of those out there for no reason at all.
It's annoying. But here, you know, they took a bit of a step and kind of, and then when you turn it around, you have this. And so what happens is if you pull this out, it's actually like a picture card. So it's actually not part of that. It's Subterranean Editions.
Okay.
Which I think they put out a couple of these editions where like it's I think they got a hemorrhage, just a couple of gore grinds releases they have. So it's a cool little postcard kind of looking thing they got here with this. So
I have an excruciating terror digipack that label put out. Yeah.
okay. I feel like if a lot of their stuff is like this, I'm gonna have to look into getting more of it. But for a demos treatment, they didn't have to go all out like this, but they did, and I appreciate it, for what it is. So when you pull it out, it's just you get this, which is very fitting. What I'm guessing is the artwork's original to this. I've never seen it before, so that's cool.
Mm-hmm.
But what's even cooler is they went even further. And the reason I wanted to show a CD is because kind of just to demonstrate I'm a sucker for the transparent CD thing. Generally.
Oh, the inner tray. You like the transparent inner tray?
Well, it's a double CD.
Oh.
So it's got the nice 6 skull artwork there.
Oh, that's cool.
It's like, you pull it out. Both CDs are like this,
oh, so okay. Oh, that's one of those ones where it's the 5-inch CD, but
yeah.
Okay, yeah. Okay, so
you can tell just by looking at that there. So there's the media.
Oh, that is cool.
For this kind of thing, I think it works. It's fine. Again, these gore grind albums are like they're just put in, getting out kind of stuff. But I feel like because this is more of an archival thing, with the collection of all their demos and stuff, I feel like they wanted to make this a little more special. You know what I mean? And this is a legacy, grind band. You know what I mean? So I feel like collectors would be extra interested in having something like this on their shelf, for the most part. So thought it'd be pretty cool.
Yeah, that is cool.
But yeah, it's a recent pickup. I don't know when this actually came out. Maybe last year or the year before. I'm not quite sure.
I saw that in a few distros somewhere.
They don't really advertise the fact that it's packaged like this. You know what I mean? I just happen to just want the demos. You know what I mean? And I got it in the mail. I'm like, holy fuck, man! They went fucking all out on this. Had I known, I would have clicked the button sooner.
That's cool.
But it's cool, yeah.
So now the booklet, like, does that fold out into a poster, or is it?
I think it's just a booklet. It's so it's all just illustrated. Yeah, it's just a whole lot of notes and stuff.
All right.
Nothing too special, but just kind of just scans of some of their old demos. I feel like if this was packaged as an LP, I don't think, as far as I know, there's no LP in particular like this. But this is one of those examples where you're gonna want all those scans, you're gonna want all the liner notes, you're gonna want all that stuff, on there. But I don't know how much of that stuff was preserved, but this is all that I see here. So I'm guessing this is what they were able to get. So
that's cool. Good band too. I saw them play before.
Yeah, just still around, man, doing stuff, which is cool to know. Like the stuff coming out of Sweden, man, it's just like the thing is not a lot of those bands do come to the US, to do shows, often enough anyway. Unless it's a big fest, right? Like MDF or something.
Yeah, that's where I saw General Surgery play. So cool. Oh man. All right. We are at the 2 hour and 22 minute mark.
I feel like we need a part 2.
Oh yeah, we'll do another. I have a bunch of other ones to pull to see. I didn't even get to any of my CDs tonight. Like I have some Japanese My Bloody Valentine CDs that I wanted to show, and we can just look at those another time. And I have some other vinyl to show too. So, but yeah, it was good to scratch that print production itch that I've had.
It needed to be discussed, man. It just needed to be brought to light, if you will.
Definitely. All right. So everyone in the chat, thank you for tuning in. And I'm trying to do more regular streams on Sundays. It's Sunday nights. So yeah, kind of think I'm going to have a little bit of some comedy coming up soon too that I'm going to post online. Some stand up. So we'll see.
Oh, and you heard it here, future Electric Wizard deep dive.
And a few, right? Exactly. Electric Wizard deep dive. It's on the horizon for sure. Anyways, everyone tuning in, thank you for watching, and have a good night.
All right, folks.
End stream.